My name is Darren Hupke, and this is Pixels and Polygons. All right, back again with another episode of the show. Thanks for joining another week. I do have a couple new things cooking. I have a official Patreon page that I've set up. This will be kind of like the umbrella for all of my like retro gaming content, all like the writing and podcasting and all the stuff that I do, just to be under one banner. The link will be at the bottom of the show notes on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. It's just patreon.com/Darren Hupke, I think is where you can get it. The cool things about that is that there is a shop portion, and I'm able to sell the digital copies, the PDFs, the DRM-free PDFs of my 32-bit library series of books. So you can get volume 1, 2, and 3 there. If you jump into one of like the supporter tiers, which would be awesome, you do get the first volume for free. I think I have it set up that way correctly. If not, shoot me a message and I'll make sure I get you one. And I plan to write just various like bonus episodes will be on there for like this show. There'll be just episodes with just me called like single player, and there'll be just an extra episode you can listen to during the weeks. So I'll post one of those in like the main feed for free for everybody to keep listening to, just like these main episodes are each month. But then there'll be 3 additional single player episodes that'll be just kind of for supporters of the Patreon. The other cool aspects of that, I want to add like writing, different things that I've like written in the past, just kind of original like thoughts and articles and entries, feelings, things like that are all tied into like my history with gaming and retro gaming, even like what I'm currently playing in modern stuff. But all that's going to be on my Patreon page. So take a look at that. You can follow for free. You can get a lot of stuff that way for free. You can participate in like polls and leave comments about some of the future prompts that you do want to see as well. So it's definitely worth just following along, even without having to like feel like you need to give money at all. Just definitely just do the free follow, get some cool free stuff, get some extra content, and enjoy everything that I'm doing kind of all under one umbrella. Otherwise, for the show this week, the 2 guests I have are my friend Austin and Brian from RetroGameBooks.com, both returning guests who have been on previous episodes, and love chatting with both of them. This week's episode is on a wow moments from video games. So things that just kind of, made us go like, wow. It's kind of pretty self-explanatory. I really didn't need to elaborate on it this way, did I? Yeah, well, sure. Just go ahead and listen to it and have some fun. We start off with Austin, and then after the break, we get to Brian's portion. Otherwise, thank you for coming back another week, and thank you for listening more. And we will catch you here next week. Bye. Welcome back to another episode. I've got my friend Austin with me here. Hello, Austin.
Hello, long-time listener, first-time caller.
You've been on other episodes, so it doesn't really work out that same way.
Okay.
But before we jump into the main episode, we're going to refresh listeners and ask you an icebreaker question so they can just get a taste of who they're listening to. I like this one, actually. I've asked this one in the last couple of episodes, but I think I'm going to still ask it. What game character would you be friends with in high school? Or like what game character would you have been friends with growing up? It doesn't necessarily have to be high school.
Oh. Whew. Okay. Yeah, that's something. Game character I would have been friends with growing up or in high school.
Like Buck Bumble or...
Yeah, a classic Buck Bumble. Oozing with personality. I mean, he's a bumblebee. What else do we know about him again?
His name is Buck. And he likes to sting people
likes
because
to-
he's the...
Yeah, he doesn't die from doing it though. I guess. Yeah, that's hard. I feel like video game characters are so sometimes very one-dimensional in a lot of ways. But I mean, let's think about it. So, growing up, I guess. I mean, mischievous. I guess.
Sure.
I guess maybe to a point, right? I mean, I don't know.
One of the mischief makers.
The Yuki troublemakers. No, I guess I'll go with. God, I don't have a good answer for this. I'll just go with the stupid kid from the game Bully. I guess me and him probably would have got some shenanigans. I guess probably. I mean, he's like ditching class and.
Does he have a name, or is he just like a nameless avatar for you?
You might name him. I can't. No, actually, no. He probably does have a name. Thinking about like the Grand Theft Auto formula, there was probably his name was probably TJ or something.
I think
it's a cool
was.
'90s kind of name.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm Googling it right here. The name of the school was Bulworth.
Yeah.
I thought it was Edgeworth. Some edging. After Jimmy Hopkins.
Jimmy Hopkins, yeah.
Yep,
I smoked pot with Jimmy Hopkins.
I don't know what that is.
I know that's not. And I'm thinking it's not the line, but I'm thinking of Stephens. I smoked pot with Johnny Hopkins.
Oh.
Sloan Ketterman.
Yeah. So I mean, you be friends with him just because you just get up to no good.
I mean, I'm not saying we'd remain friends to this day, but I mean, probably in like 5th, 6th grade, yeah, we probably would have been hanging out a little bit,
Okay.
He probably would have pushed things a little too far, and I would have been like, "Whoa, I'm like a bad kid, but I'm not that bad of a kid." And I would have, gone and done something else. But
I'm not putting firecrackers in toilets here and giving kids swirlies.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't know. Or that kid would have bullied me. I'm really not sure, actually. Maybe not. I just didn't have a good answer for that one. That's a real curveball there. So I don't know.
He wasn't quite the bully. Like, there was the worst kid that you were trying to like avoid, and like realistically,
the
he
real
didn't.
Big kid, huh?
Yeah, and he didn't get into too much trouble unless you specifically did try to like. But you were like Robin Hooding it for bullies. Like you were bullying the bad bullies while you were just a delinquent yourself. But yeah, that was a decent game. I never finished it.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I think I did finish it, but, yeah, that would have been a franchise that would have been cool to see continue.
Yeah. Well, in an alternate world, it is. It's one of the best games of all time, next to Skyrim. So then, for this episode's main question then that we're going to ask, this one isn't kind of a game-specific. I mean, unless you have a specific game, which you probably will, but... more of a big generalized question of like what game or what is your favorite like kind of a wow moment from a video game that could have come from the game itself. It could be coming from like a moment or a scene or an event within the game, but is there like a wow moment that you have that impressed you with a game?
Yeah, I mean there's a lot that come to mind. Of like specific moments. There's some games that just like looked so good that you were just like, wow, how
Shenmue.
Yeah, I mean at the time, that was like, wow, look at this. Super Mario 64, go anywhere you want to go, be anything you want to be. That's not the case at all. That commercial was completely wrong, but that was also a wowing game at the time. But no, the one that came to mind for me for whatever reason was Metal Gear Solid 1. The Psycho Mantis, specifically that gimmick where it's like, like we figured it out. I was playing it with you actually when this happened, but it was like, there was like, for me at least, a moment of like, how the hell did the game know? Like, it's like, oh, I see you like whatever game that it might be able to read off of your memory card, assuming you have another Konami save file on there. Yeah. And at the time it was like such a, like I said, we figured it out, but there was a moment where I was like, how did it know this? Like, it took me a second, like, whoa, what the hell? Like, and I just remember that being like a really big, like, whoa, kind of a moment. But I think it wasn't just like that moment necessarily. I think that the game had like, it had done enough to like really like like, I mean, now it looks like probably really silly, but at the time, like that AI seemed like pretty intelligent. Like, oh, these guards, they can see your footprints and like they hear noises and like it's like so the game was kind of like on a little bit of a different level than what most games were doing at the time already. And so there had already been like some progression and like kind of going into territories that I hadn't experienced in a game before. And so for that to just jump out, that was like the build up to that happening for me was like a major, like, whoa, like where did that come from? I don't know. It was just like a really clever, like, wow, this is fucking awesome kind of a thing. Even after I realized what was happening, it was still like, I just thought so like cool and clever that they thought to kind of include that. I mean, of course there's probably more impressive things for sure that have been done in gaming, but I think, I don't know, for whatever reason, that always stood out to me as like the biggest surprise factor almost in a game. I mean, there's been some other pretty good surprises in games too, but that one sticks out to me for sure.
Yeah, the lead up to that fight too, like when he's like monologuing with you before you fight, he like wants you to put your controller on the ground if it's a DualShock, and like it'll start vibrating. It's like, oh, he's using his psychic powers and telekinesis powers to move it. And then during the fight itself, you have to move the controller slot 1 to controller slot 2 because he's reading your mind and all that stuff. So they're trying to give you like the idea that it's like it's connected to the hardware. Yeah, that's a really cool idea. Like just like Kojima trying to play with like the weird like meta contextual like nature of like the game referencing itself within the hardware within the video game. It's like really weird like a loop that he has and all that stuff. Which is always really rad to see how it kind of comes. It doesn't always work, but when it does, it's really cool. Like when he tries his weird things.
Yeah, I probably should have mentioned that the other stuff earlier that kind of like sets like that final kind of like, or that big reveal, I guess, of the reading your memory card and like having the dialogue. But I don't know, it was so impactful that like it doesn't come up that often in games, but there was, you probably remember, but maybe didn't play it, but that game, Eternal Darkness on the GameCube.
Yeah.
Cool little game, and it kind of tried to implore like some of those same gimmicks and stuff like that. But and I don't think it was necessarily through like getting it ruined via reading like previews and magazines and stuff like that. But it was just that like having Metal Gear Solid already have kind of done that. Like like there was not that like surprise, or it was cool and kind of fun what they were doing with it. Like because they did some similar like, oh, the controller's unplugged, or like try to mess with you in that sort of a way. But I don't know, it didn't hit at all the same as that Psycho Mantis battle did for me with Metal Gear. And I think that just spoiled me on like that kind of a I don't know if you want to call it a gimmick, but that kind of fun.
Yeah, whatever the meta nature of it all. Yeah, I mean, the Eternal Darkness, that whole thing too. It had like that sanity like meter of it all. So like when that depleted, that's when you can see some of those weird things happen. I thought it was really cool. I mean, like it is with it being close to Metal Gear's release, or within like the same ballpark. Like it is going to be kind of easy to kind of like reference or like think back to some influences there. Metal Gear Solid 2 did some of the stuff that like Eternal Darkness did with its sanity thing in like its ending when the post game starts to wrap too. But yeah, Kojima's always kind of done those weird things. He did that whole Game Boy Advance series of like Boktai, the sun is in your hand, where he had like the solar sensor where it was like, hey, you use the world to charge your gun, but if you're in too much sun, it'll overheat. But if you're not in any sun, you won't be able to charge it. And like, so you had to play with the real world within the game, like way ahead of its time for Game Boy Advance, which is really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. No, Metal Gear is a cool one. Obviously, biased fan of the series. It's one of my favorite series and everything. But yeah, Metal Gear is cool. I've always just loved like the weird things that series has done, but really just kind of what Kojima's done. Like that's why I've always been just kind of a big fan of his. I wanted to share one of my own then. I don't know if you ever went back and like played through it at all, but like Eco, like before Shadow of the Colossus, that Team Eco game. I think I had maybe it was like the official US PlayStation magazine, like the demo disc for it, or it was like a jam pack, like Sony like sample demo DVD thing. But I remember playing an early version of it, and like that got me like really excited to like be interested in that game. But when I finally did get to play it, first couple of hours you're just like roaming around like these like castle like interiors and a couple like like puzzly areas, like nothing too like overtly complicated or crazy or anything, but like you get to this windmill eventually that's just kind of like rotating around, and like once you exit out into that area and like load in, it seems like most other areas, but like I don't know, like I think that's when like the scale and like the design of the game like really kind of open up, and you have to like shimmy around and climb the windmill and actually hang off of one of its blades to like carry you up top. And then when you get up top, you can see in the distance like the other areas of like this castle and things you'll actually go to like hours later in the game. And yes, like through the magic of technology, it is probably just like low polygon, like substituted versions of like, in the distance of like where it would theoretically be like if it was all loaded and rendered in one like world. But like, yeah, there was loading screens and stuff, so it wasn't the real area, but it was still cool to like give you that sense of scale and sense of scope, and like have like a puzzle that was like, not just pushing a box onto a switch, or like what like video game puzzles could like really have been up to that point. It was like really like within this world, you had to kind of like pay attention to the environment and like figure out how to get through the areas and everything. I mean, the whole game was like, just giant ways to kind of solve like getting like Yorda the princess like through these environments and stuff like that. But it was really cool just to kind of see that. And then ultimately when their next game with Shadow of the Colossus, it was just cool to see that like every single creature was essentially like a puzzle by itself, like of a giant monster that you had to figure out how to climb and shimmy and everything. You can see like those elements of like eco within it, but it was just, I think, more of a little bit of a mainstream appeal for a really artsy looking strange Sony game as much as it could be anyway. But yeah, that waterfall scene was just cool. It was had like a little like pond in front of it, and like you saw some really cool PS2 like water effects, so it also was like another thing of like really feeling like next generation, quote unquote. And like just I think some of those earlier PS2 games really just kind of like made me like like more like excited about what the hardware could do and everything like that. All Gran Turismo 3 came out like I think that summer, and like that was another like rad looking game that we spent lots of hours playing as well too. But some good stuff. But yeah, that eco event I think was always cool. There was a few more throughout the game and all that stuff, but that one I think just as it zooms out and scales out when you're climbing up it, you realize like it is more than just these little environments or more than just what you'd expect. I thought it was just kind of rad.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar kind of a feeling, and I almost went with it for this answer or whatever, but with like Breath of the Wild a little bit, because it was like that same sort of like, oh man, this massive world, and like a little different obviously because obviously much later, so like you could like kind of see this stuff and like travel to it, and there wasn't really like loading screens and that stuff, but it was the same kind of idea, like whoa, like I can like anything I can see I can go to and just climb up and like kind of do that, and then just like some of the fun little things too, like with like fire and stuff like that in that game, like if you like start a fire, like a brush fire, and like open up your little like parachute thing, you can like use that to like the heat will allow you to like rocket up into the air to kind of like glide to like an area further out and stuff like that.
The elemental logic of it and everything is cool too. Yeah, that's actually what it reminded me of. Like when I did see that, it did look Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom ish, where you could see way far out and know like, oh, I should walk over there. And you do technically do it in that game, but yeah, in Breath of the Wild, like you really do get to do that. Like you literally like, no, I can just keep my eye on that, the center of my screen, and just keep walking towards it. And there's not a loading screen. There's not anything weird. Like I'm literally just going to come across that after this like large trek and potentially random moblin camps and miscellaneous things along the way. But that's cool.
Oh yeah.
Rad. Well, that's it. That's the wow factor. This is if you were a fan of GamePro magazine, their little 5.0 like red face of like wow. That's what this episode has come to life. So that's it. Well, thanks for coming on then, Austin. We'll have you on a future episode for sure. And it's good talking to you.
Sweet. Thank you.
Bye. welcome to another episode then, Brian. I'm already recording, just to ensure that you know that, so you don't say anything like wild and crazy like you just previously said. I'm just kidding. People don't really think that he said anything crazy. Anywho, before we jump into it, maybe catch us up, like anything like new maybe you want to say about yourself or what you've been doing lately. And if not, I've got an icebreaker question for you. And I want to know, what is your favorite vehicle or mode of transportation in a video game?
Oh, wow. That's great. Okay, so new stuff with Retro Game Books. We will be at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, but that's not for a while. There are some new projects being worked on. One I'll keep secret a little longer, but the other one is the SNES Maps series. It'll be a 3-volume series. The first one's going to be coming out for pre-order pretty soon, and the rest will be fairly fast follows, but we'll see. So that's exciting. With your question, the vehicle thing, it's funny, like when a game is just about vehicles, I'm like, okay, yeah, you're driving, that's the game. When it's about like a vehicle in a game and it's not the main thing, I actually don't like those parts in games. I always just like want to get through it, and I just want it to like kind of handle well and just not be too realistic. I really love the motorcycles. I think like in like Vice City, for example, and other GTA games, I always really liked them because they were just so different. And, you could shoot your Uzis off the side and it just looked kind of cool. And you're driving in the rain and everything. Those are always fun. I think I'll go with that. I can't remember, but I think in the first iteration when they had motorcycles, you couldn't backflip. You would just kind of fall off. And then when they added that in, it felt like, you could be a god on a motorcycle. So yeah, I'll go with that.
Their insane jumps and things like that they had littered throughout the city. Yeah, those are always cool. Cool. Well, then, for this episode, we want to answer the question, what is a wow moment you had with a video game? Like, what was it about it that kind of impressed you? So, this is kind of more like open to interpretation, as the answerer to the question. But yeah, like, do you have like a wow moment or something that kind of like really blew you away or inspired you or made you rethink what video games can do, depending on the age you were when you experienced it?
Yeah, so I hope you don't mind. I have a 7-part answer to this, but I promise I will keep each one brief. They're all kind of themed together. So they're all based on the NES in some way, which, the NES was definitely impressionable for me at a young age. So all these things, keep in mind, if you're a young listener, these were novel at the time. So that's why they were big wow moments for me. They were novel. So number one was in the original Legend of Zelda. We were surprised with this second quest. There were like murmurs about like, is this really true? Is it really a second quest? What does that really mean? This whole added level of depth and replay value was just something you just didn't really see to this degree. Remember, we're going from like Atari to the NES. It was already a huge upgrade. And then to add all this extra content and to mix everything up was such a big deal. The second one was, in the original Mega Man, we know Mega Man, he beats the boss, he takes their power, he uses their power. It sounds so simple now, but that was a big deal. That first time you beat a boss and you realize, I can absorb this power, I can use it, I can recharge it, I can perhaps solve, a little puzzle, or get past a certain area with this power. It changes the dynamic of the different levels you play. That was a big deal in the moment. The third one was that first time I realized that the arcade is not the home experience. For me, this was with Strider. I know a lot of people have a lot of affection for the NES Strider game. But for me, my reaction was, this is not like the arcade, and that bothers me. Like, my young brain thought the graphics should look the same, the gameplay will be the same, everything will be the same. And then I realized, there are hardware limitations, there are differences. And I was disappointed, and it is what it is. The fourth one is, day and night cycles, pretty standard in a lot of big games these days. But in Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest, it was new to me. And, the bad guys, they take more damage. The music would change. The lighting, really, like, the backgrounds would change. All these things would be different. The NPCs in the town would become ghouls. All this stuff would change. And so the whole dynamic of the way you interact with the world would be different. Like, should I go that far? Do I have enough health to kind of survive the deadly night kind of thing? The fifth one was with Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, which just became Punch-Out later, right? So Mike Tyson exited as the final character, insert Mr. Dream. This was just a weird moment. We had the Mike Tyson's version, and I remember seeing the non-Mike Tyson versions and just being confused. Like, why would you remove this guy? I was young. I didn't understand the backstory about what was going on. Later kind of understood what was happening and why. And it just made me realize, there's a lot more going on than what a player sees in a game. Number 6 was, when you realize Samus is a female in the original Metroid, another big deal. There were, I'm sure there was some like context clues and people were probably spoiling it for each other in the schoolyard. But for me, I didn't know until later. I was playing at a friend's house and we kind of figured it out. The character is referred to as a he and like the manual, I believe, and all these things that kind of throw you off. And so that was a big surprise. And then the last one is in Bionic Commando. Awesome game for the NES. There were a lot of switches made between the Japanese version and the US North American version. All the Nazi Hitler type stuff was for the most part removed, right? All the symbolism and references. The character, the leader, still looked like the guy, so you still got to watch his head explode. So everyone got that satisfaction, but they didn't outright say it. They just had kind of this eagle graphic instead of the wicked graphic that they had in Japan. So those were the 7 things: Zelda, Mega Man, Strider, Castlevania 2 Day and Night, Punch-Out, Female Metroid, Surprise, and Bionic Commando.
Well, you hit us with the NES gauntlet there. That's cool. Yeah, those are all like impactful and powerful moments. I think I was just slightly too young for the NES to really like wrap my brain around. Like, we had it. I was born in '86, and we got like the NES. I think maybe like '89, maybe '88, probably '88. So I just remember there's like old photos of me like holding the controller and playing like really young. But then like I kind of grew with it and got more games and everything. And it took a while for us to get our first Genesis. But I did have a long lifespan with that. But it just so many great games on there, and it's just weird that I just don't have the same like attachment. I think it's just because of just that little age range. Like, if I was just born slightly earlier, like it definitely probably would have stuck with me a lot more. But those were all huge moments for sure. I mean, I think definitely for players to think about it, like especially the Mega Man one, like you think you essentially within the first 5 to 10 seconds of a game try and figure out its mechanics, and you're like, cool, I got this. This little blue guy is going to run around and shoot. I just got to avoid the obstacles and platform my way through this. Got it. And then suddenly like gaining those powers, it's like oh, like this is minutes in, and like after your first difficult boss fight, suddenly like the game is on its head because you are now not just that same shooting person, but you are like you said, using those like puzzles and environments with those abilities. And potentially the rock, paper, scissor formula of like the weakness for the right boss if you pick the right order. Yeah, that's fine.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the part I missed. The whole like, what's the order that you do this in? It totally like you don't have to do it in that order, but if you want to make your life easier, you can. It's a really good point.
Yeah. I have a wow moment. It's which is funny you shared like the Vice City motorcycles and the icebreaker question, because my answer for this is Grand Theft Auto 3. Like being like a heavy like PS1 gamer, in my late childhood and early teens and everything. Like I experienced like the entry into 3D gaming, and really like learning like the limitations of what games could do. Like there were some attempts at it, like a game like Driver, on the PS1 was more like look at these really cool like car handling physics and stuff, but it was like in a really like boxy version of Miami. There wasn't a lot to do necessarily other than just drive around. But yeah, just those first moments of like starting up GTA 3 and like the cinematic scope of it, like the heavy like Godfather and like Tarantino and like all these like movie influences that it had. And then like the first moment you get control of your character, you've escaped like this prison transport and you're on a bridge that's destroyed. For game reasons, it limits you to only be able to run around this first island as you progress the initial beats of the story. But there's still such a big sandbox, and like knowing that like, oh, I can just go pick up some side missions here if I wanted to. I can progress the main story if I wanted to. I could find some of these hidden packages and things if I wanted to. I could just steal a taxi and start just driving people around to their destination for extra money if I wanted to. Like the real like openness to it was like the first time in a game that like I really had felt like wow, like really I can explore and go anywhere I want, and there's like absolutely anything to do. Was like that was just like a big point, because I mean from there obviously like now games and open world game designs really been heavily influenced by like the Ubisoft design at this point too, with like Assassin's Creed, and you just have a map littered with icons and destinations to go to, and when done well it could be very entertaining, and when done wrong it's just like this obtuse like checklist and kind of lifeless and everything. But still having like the wonder and not knowing what the true limitations were or just was really cool as a younger gamer when Grand Theft Auto 3 first came out.
That's a good one for sure.
I had pre-ordered it. I definitely was under 17, so ESRB and mature rating licenses and things like that. But my local GameStop, like they probably were like, hey, here comes this annoying kid again, because I'd constantly be coming in to like talk about new games or like try and pre-order a new game or just like whatever it may be, and beg them for like the free stuff in their drawer for pre-order bonus stuff. But on release night, after school and everything, like I rode my bike up to GameStop, no parent, no anything with me. Like the assistant manager who was working at that time, like didn't care, didn't check my ID, like just knew like, yeah, it's cool. This kid's not going to like, say anything or, cause any problems for us. So he sold it to me without any questions asked. And then he's like, hey, do you want to try and play it? And so then he opened up the little PS2 demo kiosk and popped in a full version of the game. And we just sat there playing it for like 30 minutes, just like in the store. And like you definitely couldn't do that like now, or if you did, definitely if you got like caught or somebody saw you just having a M-rated game just open and exposed to teenagers and younger kids, especially with some of the content that was in the game, was just super random. But I just remember picking it up that night and just having a really good time with it. No hassle, no fuss, no nothing. Bought it and picked it up, no problem.
Yeah, that's great.
But cool. Well, that does it for that question then, and for this episode. Anything you want to maybe plug or say as a final thought before we wrap it there?
No, I think that's good. It's a good prompt. It was nice, thinking about these NES games again, and they're so quaint now, but the memories live on.
Yeah, right on. Cool. Well, thanks, Brian. We will have you on a future episode again for sure.